So, as I am involved in the community, as I have the opportunity to go to different programs with the school system, with the health system, and seeing at times how we are seen as an industry, it is very challenging. When you're almost like the elephant in the room, and then everybody's seeing many of the issues that need to be tackled, but none of them are being seen from the exercise side, is very hard.
This is All Things Fitness and Wellness, hosted by Krissy Vann. Together, we're uniting industry thought leaders and fitfluencers on the mission to inspire innovation and encourage people to live a life fit and well. On today's episode, I'm so excited to be joined by the CEO of ClubFitness Greensboro, Maria Gonzalez. Maria's story begins with a daring move, relocating to a new country without knowing the language, a testament to her resilience and determination. Her foundation in competitive sports from a very young age in Colombia profoundly influenced her leadership style and strategic thinking. From those challenging early days in the United States, she navigated her way through the fitness industry, climbing the ranks with steadfast ambition and visionary leadership, eventually taking her place at the helm as CEO. In this episode, Maria will share the critical decisions and pivotal moments that shaped her career and life. She'll offer valuable insights into leading with courage, fostering innovation, and driving growth within a competitive industry. Furthermore, Maria will discuss her passionate advocacy work, including her recent efforts on Capitol Hill to support the FIT Act, emphasizing the fitness industry's role in promoting health and wellness on a national scale. Before we get to it, be sure to hit like and subscribe. We have new podcast episodes weekly featuring industry thought leaders and influencers. I'm your host, Krissy Vann, and this is ATFW. Maria, we have had the opportunity to meet on several occasions. Of course, one would have been at URSA, now known as the Health and Fitness Association's fly-in on Capitol Hill. We're going to be diving into the importance of industry advocacy in this conversation. Then we ran past each other quite literally this March at URSA, again, Health and Fitness Association, because it was such a busy time in LA. But I want to say a huge thank you because I know you've got a very busy schedule and somebody that prides themselves on the go. So I appreciate you taking the time today.
No, thank you for inviting me. I appreciate you having me.
Well, I'm really keen to learn more about your story. And one of the things that I think has been so powerful for me as I've entered into the fitness industry, learning about people in leadership, is the role physical activity has played throughout the lifetime. I think it speaks to the importance of what we're doing now in trying to get more youth moving, because every single conversation I have from a leader, generally the foundations they built were either from sports growing up or physical activity. So you were born and raised in Colombia. Tell me what it was that kind of invigorated you in that physical activity space growing up.
So I completely agree with you, Krissy. I think the role of sports, the role of physical activity in my life has marked many of the things that I do. They mark many of the things that have given me a foundation to love and help me with the path that I took, like for leadership. So I grew up in Colombia, and it's a city of over 4 million people, but got involved in swimming really early on. I think I was maybe younger than 2 when I was exposed to the water. And by age 5, it's almost like there you really don't have like these seasons of sports where it's almost like you get into one and then that's it. So by 5, your sport has been defined. I said, I wish I would have had the opportunity to say maybe synchronized swimming, but no, that wasn't the case. I was doing laps, joined a swim team at 5, competed from age 5 to 15. And it was my life. I mean, like I had practice before school, after school, and never complained, always loved it. Went from a very small swim team, and my dream was to join the biggest swim team in my hometown. And that has been my life always, right? Like just looking to develop myself and join whichever is bigger and better, whichever I'm going to be more challenged. So I did that at 11. And by 15, I just didn't think that I was like improving, right? Like,
Mhm.
I have developed everything that I could as an athlete. And I decided just to quit swimming by 15. I was just like, I'm done with swimming. I'm going to find a new love. And that's when I was seeking for a new sport. I had friends that they were doing triathlons. I had friends that they were doing water polo, and went to do a practice in water polo, which it was, like coming from an individual sport to a team sport.
Big difference.
Very, very different. But I was always very rough. Sometimes even like just playing with my brothers. I'm the oldest of three. And then just like playing rough, like, it was normal for me. So some things were just like clicked right away. And some things were very difficult because, I was just used to just swim laps, right? Like go back and forth. So I was able to keep up with everybody, but I really didn't have that vision of a team and catching the ball and passing the ball. So I was kind of like hiding. At the beginning, I was like really afraid that I was going to make a mistake or maybe not throw it the right way. I was given permission to be rough. So I was just like, well, maybe I found my new passion.
Game on.
And I did. And, by 15, when you are almost like the peak of like growing and your career and everything, then you just have everything from attention to discipline to everything that I had been working on. And I was able to reach the highest level in Colombia and play with, I mean, like I was training 7 hours a day. Uh,
Wow.
7 hours a day, 6 days a week, and then Sundays we kind of like have a half of a practice. So, but loved it, loved every bit of it. Hard at times, sacrifices, like some things that other people do that you don't have time for, but nobody ever pushed me to that. Like it was something that I seek for it. So that translate to life in all the senses, right? Like, are you pushing yourself to your limits? How disciplined, are you? Do you really want it? And how bad do you want it? How hard are you working? If you are not working your fullest, there is a line of people behind you that want that spot. So that's fine. Just quit, right? Like, not a problem. We can replace you.
It is so true, though, because that is the perfect metaphor for life. At the end of the day, the thing that I like that you highlighted the most, especially because that's an impressive amount of dedication to have that many hours, plus regular life is happening around that. But that you said, this is what I wanted to do. I was passionate about. And that's really the key ingredient, even when we talk to entrepreneurship or striving towards those higher levels of leadership. The success generally will come if it's something you're very aligned with and passionate about. I think you would have probably wrestled a lot more if you're like, this isn't for me. And then you start to become resentful or cynical or less productive overall if you're feeling that way mentally. But you have this mental fortitude that's harnessed at a pretty young age. I mean, that is an impressive feat. I'm curious, obviously, you're in these higher levels of sport, but you make a big leap pretty early in your life to all of a sudden navigate to a new country. So, how did that decision come into play and why the United States?
So I met my husband in college. He was a professional soccer player. So we both were athletes. We're both, pretty much leaving very similar things, even though water polo is not a professional sport and I wasn't paid for, which that's the difference, right? Like, we're both are doing something that we love. One is paying for and then the other one is not. Things happen in Colombia, like safety things. And so his family had to move to United States and
Go in as much as you want, but I'm just like, I couldn't imagine a big life decision like that. And I just think it's important to highlight when you're making the right choice for your family, but it's also a have to choice. That's pretty scary.
oh, and it was because it wasn't for me, right? Like it was him and his family. And at that time, I didn't have a visa. I didn't know if I was going to come. But I also think that things in life come for a reason. There is nothing that happens by accident. I don't think there is, like a coincidence. There's, like I'm just a firm believer. Like if things are for
Me
you,
too.
they will be for you,
Me
right?
too. They don't always make sense at the time. When
Sure.
you audit, they do.
Sure, absolutely. So I said, if it's meant for us to be together, then we'll be together. And if it's not, then we were married for a year. I was almost 19. I was 15 days before my 90th birthday. So that happened a year after that. So I did get the visa. I came when I was 20. I did not know. I've never dreamed coming to the United States. So I came with lots of unknowns. I came not really understanding the culture, really not understanding, not speaking the language. I had taken English classes, when I was growing up, but I mean, like what people can say, taking Spanish classes here, very basic. Hi, how are you? Numbers, colors. That's about it. We lived in Miami 2.5 years. And then after living 2.5 years in Miami, we decided that we needed to move because English was not was not happening. We were not learning English, even though we were trying to go to school and learn it. Our days were full with Spanish. So a friend of my husband was here in Greensboro, and we came to visit, and we loved it. That was 23 years ago. That was like the beginning of a journey, which I mean, like everything has led to one another thing. But now I've been in Greensboro longer than I lived in Colombia, so yeah, it's home. It's my second home.
I think the thing that's important to know, and a lot of our listeners are within our age group, but at that period of time, it's different now. You want to move somewhere new, you can look at a million videos of even the street that you're going to move on and where the best places to eat are. Everything's at our fingertips, so you could be a lot more prepared. But then when you're saying, I didn't really know much about what the lifestyle would be, all of it would have been a pretty big mystery before you land there. What was that experience like? Because yes, you're at a young age where I feel like we're more malleable and adaptable. We're less married to exactly what life is supposed to look like. But at the same time, you're in this new place. And what was the plan for you when you got there? Because at the end of the day, I imagine super ambitious individuals, but then you're put in this very disorienting situation.
So it's very interesting, Krissy, when you talk about that you're driven and you want to do the best that you can, but then you're pretty much like, there are times that I think of myself coming to a country, like pretty much with like maybe one set of clothes, right? And then just dropped, right? Like just drop there, just figure it out. Or when you're being taught, like, let me teach you how to fish
Yeah.
because then that will help you with survival. It's pretty much what I feel that all those skills that I learned growing up gave me the strength to face everything. At that moment, I wasn't thinking what I wanted it to do. I went to school for accounting, but because I was a swimmer, because I was a water polo player, I was led to start teaching swim lessons at 16. I did all the certifications. I was at gyms at 11, so I did group exercise instructor certifications. My fun life has always been around exercise. And when I moved to Miami, I was connected with an ex-Olympian from Mexico who has a swim school in South Florida. And I had the opportunity to train with him and work with him for 2.5 years. So I even developed more skills in swimming than I was bringing with me, right? Like, so it was like this whole package. And for anyone who's listening who has a pool, normally it doesn't happen very often. We don't get many people who have a wealth of knowledge in aquatics that they're coming to say, hire me. I wish.
For sure. For sure. Right? You're like, that's the dream.
So yeah, that was the beginning. So when I moved to Greensboro, even though I didn't speak English, I applied for the jobs that they were looking for lifeguards and swimming instructors and water exercise instructors. I mean, I had it all, but I just couldn't speak. So, I went to an interview one time and I didn't speak the language. So the person who drove me there helped me out as a translator. So when you think about not even thinking what is happening at the moment, at times it's just like you're just going with the flow. You don't know any better, right? Like you're hustling. You're going to go for it. And you know that you can bring what people have and more because you have that drive and that desire and that need. So it's almost when they said, like, find someone who's hungry, right? Like you want to have someone who wants to be there. I mean, like the opportunity is given and you're just going to take it. There is no half anything. You're always going to be giving your best. You're always going to be pushing to strive to do better every single time, no matter what you're doing.
I can tell it's something that you have honed through experience over time. And there's no way that you come out the other side with that mindset without those experiences being really hard. So I just want to pause you there to talk about showing up to these interviews without the language, because I know when I worked in TV, one of the number one things sometimes if I was grabbing people off the street to get comments, sometimes they would say, "Oh no, don't pick me. My English isn't really good." And normally I would always pause them. I would never ever force anyone to be on TV that didn't want to. But I said, "Hey, just like never apologize for that." I'm like, "You're speaking to me in English." I was like, "I speak one language." The fact that you're even trying in two and just like being like, "I see you." So never discount, because that's 10 times harder than what I'm trying to do. But I know sometimes in these situations, people's intelligence are discounted
Mhm.
because they don't have the language. What was your experience within that? Because what you're saying, you had this laundry list of experience that anyone would want. But I do think that as humans, we do a really ill job of recognizing that in another person because they're not showing up just like us in that moment.
Hmm. Crazy. It's a heavy one. That's a big one, right? Like, there's probably a lot of people that they still do,
Yeah.
right? Because you don't sound like them, because you don't look like them. They can discount or they can question, like your talents or your gifts. Thankfully, like, I have never suffer of, I mean, not that you don't have these moments where you may question or doubt yourself, but on the other hand, I'm really just like going for things, right? So if someone will question or make fun or do something, I mean, honestly, like, just have at it. I mean, like, you're gonna laugh, then good for you, right? But I do have to say it is something that I'm very thoughtful and mindful of. So, for example, we do have a very diverse community around us. This is a city of over 300,000 people, and there is about 113 languages spoken in our school
Wow.
system. So, when you think about 113 languages, it's pretty wild, right?
Yeah.
So, there's people who come and they're members that they're from different Asian countries, Korea, Vietnam, and I don't speak none of their languages. I wish I can even say hello on each one of theirs, just to make them feel welcome. And but the funniest thing, it was that for the longest time they will all look for me. They will all wanted it to have bring me their friends, or have me to help them with their membership, or have me show them around. And not because I spoke their language, but because it's that part that you want to make them feel welcome, even if I don't understand. And at times it is hard, because I can even imagine if it was hard for me from Spanish to English, I can imagine from these other languages that they have symbols and then they
Mhm.
have these different sounds. So it's that part of sensitivity, is that part of humanity, is that part of, you cannot judge anybody by the way that they sound. You cannot like judge anybody by the way that they look. And it's sometimes it's just like, take the time to get to know them, be curious, because there is so much to learn from everybody.
Well, and humans want to be seen. At the end of the day, we want to
Absolutely.
be seen. And so that is your special gift with an exponent on it, because there's a part of you that's like, I've walked in these shoes and I know this feeling. So
Mhm.
I'm willing to take the time and make sure that I know, even if there's a barrier here, you are seen. You are a human that's doing your best. And ultimately, in that avenue, you're like, and I want to help get you moving. Because as you said, exercises are fun part of our lives. It's the fun
Yes.
part of your career. So I'm curious how you go from this wealth of experience and obviously in high demand in regards to aquatics to CEO, because that's I imagine there was a few ladder jumps there.
Yeah, and when I think about, like, I close my eyes and it's just like a career of 23 years, but it's day by day, right? Like, you just, a lot of times we want to go from one to the other, or we look, like a journey, and then you're just thinking about like that final ladder. If someone thinks that there's a final ladder, right? Like, like, to me, I feel that you can continue to grow as much as you
I
want
was going to
to.
say there's
There
no
is
way
a
you have a
never
final
ending.
ladder.
But when you think on a career path, right? Like, like, what is that? And it's every day that is going to lead you to the next day. And I always tell, anyone who is trying to learn or do something, I'm like, just do the best that you can, no matter where you are, because that is going to lead you then to the next thing. And unless you're like pushing yourself and pushing those boundaries that we have created or that we have structure for whatever reason, then you don't know really what you're capable of. So opportunities, people believing in you, and then you cultivating the land to what is coming next, right? Like, so you're gonna be watering it, and then that's gonna be based on everything that you do. And then at one point, that opportunity is gonna come, or the time for that flower to flourish is just gonna be there, right? And so it was from lifeguarding, then teaching, and then they saw me teaching and seeing that passion and that love for helping others, for that passion for the water, which, I would say I can teach a swim lesson out of the water. Like if anybody says to me, like we're at a fitness conference and they're like, Maria, I'm doing, an Ironman and I'm struggling with my swimming. I'm like, come on, tell me, what are you doing under the water?
You're like, I've
So
got you.
but it's that part of it's empowering, is helping, it's things that we already know that maybe for us now become easy, that for someone at that moment is like, no, I'm struggling, I'm getting in the water and I'm not moving, to taking the department, like, so then that was like leading, a group of people, which then going back, at that point I was speaking more English, but it's still not that well. I didn't get the jokes. You have many things, and I was like the
Oh,
only
yeah.
one who
All the
was
nuances would be so hard.
sure, very. I mean, like people are laughing, and you just don't know why. I mean,
Mm.
like you're like, should I laugh? Should I just like stay straight? But like anything, if you take that leap of faith, like then the next time around, it will be a little bit easier, even if you don't know. So then the next opportunity came from, like from the operations part. So it was a team of three, and we were, we're just getting experience and working with people, working with the members, maybe in a different way, but now just like, working on a larger scale. But then that led to taking on one, and then, then it take to taking both, and then it was just like, sure. I mean, like every time I would never say no, no matter what it is. I will figure it out, I will learn, I will seek help, I will find who are the people who are doing it the best, I will be asking for feedback, for mentorship. If I see someone in a conference and I know that they're running the best operations in the country, then I will be wanting to be their friend and learning from them. So that's me on a nutshell.
But what you highlight there is so important because one of the things that you were saying earlier, these opportunities and then leaning into them, but that really is the part that a lot of people discount themselves because they're like, I'm not ready for this or I can't do this. And that inner narrative is going on in their mind. And so you highlighting seize the opportunity. And that really is the scary part for a lot of people. And maybe a reason or a barrier of why they're not elevating at a pace that they'd really like to because they discount themselves before even giving it a shot, where you're like, give it a shot and just, you may not always get it right all the time, but truthfully, especially having done so many of these interviews of people at the upper levels, I'm like, everyone's messed it up at some point. Everybody has tried something that didn't work. The difference is you keep on going. And so you've kept right on going until CEO is the title. But we know when it comes to leadership, there's a bunch of different styles. And
Mhm.
leadership really is about elevating the people in the pyramids. So talk to me a little bit about your leadership style and what has influenced it in your life?
So sports have influenced my style on doing everything. And, like going from an individual sport to a team sport, it's understanding that one person cannot do it all. I mean, one person cannot be, regardless of what title, regardless of what you do, regardless of anything, you cannot do anything by yourself. I have to say that I take a lot of responsibility on the things that are not good. I'll give all the goods to the staff when they're, the praises and everything, that if it's well done. But yeah, either if you have not trained well or either if you have someone that is sitting on the seat that should not be seating them, right? Like, it's almost like having those right seats on the bus, like having the team that not everybody's going to be playing defense or everybody's being playing attack. Like you have to have a well diverse group of people. And if they are playing where their strengths are not their best, whose fault is it? Is it really theirs or is it ours? We all have different personalities. Some people, like to be praised more than the others, and at times that can be challenging because we do have our own personalities, our own styles, our own things, our own love languages per se. And we have to stop saying, well, but I just don't think like that, or I don't do things like that, right? Because it's not really about us anymore. So when we stop being the one, so when you are an employee or when you are the one doing things by yourself, do it however you want it to. But if you're the one leading, then you have to forget about you. You have to think about everybody else.
It's taking all of that into account and really helping people thrive in what their role is to do, but allowing them the space to do that instead of trying to be the hand of I would do it this way. We all have these great individual talents, and it does make a lot of sense that your background in sports would recognize that in these different individuals. As we've talked, obviously you emphasize that you operate in this really diverse community and it's all about community. And just from the posts that I've seen on LinkedIn from you, it's something that you really immerse yourself in and celebrate is being seen in the community and getting involved. How has that helped business? And also, how has it helped your team just knowing that you're a fabric of a part of where you operate?
So I am very involved in the community. I love my community. I'm very grateful, for all the things that not only I have received as an individual, but then my family, my son was born here. And it just has been just an amazing place to be for the length of time that we have been here. And it's almost like, okay, well, you receive, but then, then what, how are you going to give back? What are those things that you're going to do? So I got involved with a program through the Chamber of Commerce that is called Leadership Greensboro. So I did it 1 year. The year after, I was program chair. So I was able to work with another group of leaders. Then I've done another program that is called Other Voices, which is for leaders in the community too, and learning about biases and, our isms and everything that is around us that at times we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So learning about my community, learning about nonprofits that serve the people in my community. Then I had the opportunity just to really deep down find those things that I was called for and what are those things that I had passion for. And one of the first ones was to work with immigrants. So I work with a nonprofit, and then it's almost like you get involved with one, and then an opportunity opens, and an opportunity opens. So I am involved in many organizations currently. All of them have a heart to me. One could be art. I find that exercise and arts are a way to bring people together at time of division and at times where not only United States, but around the world, we see that we're pulling apart for the things that define us, politics, religion. I find that my goal is to find the things that bring us together. Not that it will fix the problems, because the problems will have to hopefully be addressed at some point in a healing way. I'm doing things that will bring people together.
Music, exercise, dancing, universal languages. And exactly in your words, it does transcend from person to person. It's sharing this energy. And to be honest, that's really what the fitness industry is about, is connecting more people to that. Not only are you being very involved with your community, you're also working very hard to elevate the message of the fitness industry and to unify the industry itself. So we started the conversation saying you and I crossed paths initially on the steps of Capitol Hill. I understand that yet another fly-in is approaching with the Health and Fitness Association, and again, formerly known as URSA. So talk to me a little bit about why this advocacy work has been so important for you personally to really take a stand and be involved.
So, as I am involved in the community, as I have the opportunity to go to different programs with the school system, with the health system, and seeing at times how we are seen as an industry, it is very challenging. When you're almost like the elephant in the room, and then everybody's seeing many of the issues that need to be tackled, but none of them are being seen from the exercise side, is very hard because it's something that I'm extremely passionate about. And I know it can help people be healthier, live a better life, find a sense of community. Like even with the kids, I'm like, gosh, what are we expecting, right? Like, we're seeing these children where our bodies are not made to be sitting and not moving. I mean, the life of a kid to be sitting all the, I mean, like, I cannot do that.
No, and I mean,
I'm not a kid anymore.
yeah, right? And I'm like, it's so unhealthy, and, like, that is a time period in their lives where your foundations are being set. And as we spoke about as well, that interconnectedness of what that means for your adult life, even from a professional or personal sense, those foundations aren't just about your physical health, but your mental health, your social health. You learn all those skills through physical activity as a kid, whether it be sport or any other avenue, playing outside for hours
Yep.
on end or on your bicycle, you know?
So that part, I found that it was very important for me to like understand how we are crafting the messaging. Like what is our role, which like I think that opportunity that we had last year was amazing, right? Because we're like being taught, being exposed and share messages that maybe not everybody has had the opportunity. And how can you advocate in the best way? How can you create and craft the message that can make sense, not only for the people who are serving on Capitol Hill, but then in any of the other groups that we have in our communities, right? So if I am going to the school system, if I am talking to doctors, if I am talking to nonprofits, if I am talking to other organizations that they're doing maybe something similar than we are, right? What is going to be the way that I can even pull people with me to say, come on, like this is what we need to organize, and this is how we need to be crafting the message of all the things that we are very passionate about. Advocacy goes both ways. I think not only from the side of helping the operations and keeping this industry healthy and being seen as an industry that is serious and that is making a difference in the world, right? Like, that we are essential and that we need to have the support from the government. But on the other hand, it's almost like the side of the people, the side of what are we doing to really bring preventive care from fitness, from movement, from exercise, from community, mental health, all the roles that we have to play when we're bringing to the school system behavioral issues, challenges that kids have. Like, so it's almost like there's all these layers of all the things that we do that they're going to impact people and impact our communities, right? Like, we have from obesity to diabetes to heart condition. I mean, like, you just name it, right? Like, it's one condition after the other that can be improved by movement and exercise. And we're paying all this money in healthcare worldwide with things that we can be much more effective.
Well, and you say it right there, worldwide. Obviously, I'm based in Canada. We have our Fitness Industry Council of Canada that's been working really hard to pass a tax line on our end so that we could write off some of the physical activity expenses. You see a lot of advocacy work taking place in the UK because these issues of chronic disease, poor mental health, poor social health. I mean, we learned about loneliness for sure a couple of years ago, and it is the US Surgeon General, I believe last May was when that was declared an epidemic because the health impacts are worse than smoking. And you're like, you have this industry that obviously at the end of the day businesses want to be profitable. We know that that was, I mean, the amount of gyms, unfortunately, that didn't survive those couple of years with forced closures. And it was because it wasn't seen as essential. And now it's so great to see the industry coming together and saying, no, no, no. We have these very real problems happening in the United States and around the world, very real problems. And this is a huge puzzle piece that could mitigate those very real problems and as well the financial side. Because I know when you're delivering this message to Capitol Hill, you're like, do you guys not hear how much money this actually would save in the long run?
We can make such an impact if we have the opportunity to allow people to come to gyms. I think, like to your point, being able to take these barriers that, like for some people, it could be an excuse, but just seeing the amount of people that are coming because insurance is covering their membership, it's unbelievable. Like it is unbelievable. So why cannot we do that more?
That is a very real barrier, especially in the current economic climate. People are having some, in certain situations, to really pick or choose. And this is not something that somebody should have to negotiate on for themselves because of those very real benefits that are offered within your door.
100%. And I think if we become one of those, like same thing that you have incentives to go to get the food here or just like go and exercise, there's plenty of options. And I think that will just benefit everything, everything in your community. Healthier communities are going to be better in all the senses. The schools will be better. I mean, like when a lot of times people think about economic impact in your communities, but if your community is not healthy, that's not a good thing.
It's so true. And I know I've covered a couple of studies and even spoken with some of the researchers involved when it comes to financial incentives and physical activity or exercise. And pretty much every one of them's like, it works. It does work. It's interesting. There was a study, I think it was earlier this year, maybe late last year. This is what happens when we're busy people. Time, who the heck knows? But what was found is even when those incentives were dropped, the habits were already built, so people kept going. And I think that's important for governments to consider as well with these policies, that there's a lot of options here that will actually work for the people. But at the end of the day, it's getting more people in the industry unified with the same message. And that ripple effect is happening. And I think it's important to highlight as well. Maybe people are thinking, I can't make it out to Capitol Hill. Maybe there's no spaces. Maybe by the time they're listening, it's passed. However, there is advocacy work that can be done within your own communities, within your own officials. I mean, even if you're joining us not from the United States, as I mentioned, more than likely, if you look into it, there is an organization that is trying to rally the industry. This is a collective movement. Hop on LinkedIn, connect with your peers. Everyone's going to be posting when they're doing the fly-in. So it's like, if you have questions, to your point earlier, where you're like, when I had questions, I just contacted this person and reached out. Do that, because not only, as I say, it's about building those healthier communities that we know, but it's also going to help this industry thrive. And I think there's nothing better to stand behind. I mean, for me, that's why I was so happy to niche into this space, because I genuinely, to my core, believe in what all of you do, because I know that it works and I know what it's done for me. Just like you with sport, you know what it's done for you. And if we can allow more people to connect with that, to your point of all the negative things that are happening in the world and the lack of connectedness and the polarization, if more people were connected to what we do, I really don't feel that we would see as many problems as we do in the world either. I get that sounds like a grand statement, but I also truly feel like it's not wrong.
Well, one thing that I was going to mention, Krissy, is that I've heard you sharing the story of your mom, right? Like, and a lot of times we think about people in different stages in their life, right? Like, and your mom just really getting into pickleball and now just like going to meeting with their friends and just being out there. We are advocating for every single one, right? Like we're not advocating just for one group of people. We're not advocating for one club. We're advocating for the industry at large, worldwide. Like everybody needs to be thinking of that. And it's like, we're not in an individual sport. We are here in a team sport, and we need everybody to be connected.
Well, Maria, I so appreciate you coming on here and sharing your powerful story. I just love people that have that determined energy and are willing to share their story because there's something positively infectious about that. It does spark something in another when you have so much evidence from an individual that's like, nope, I didn't give up, and nope, I'm going to keep going. And I have no doubt that you will. I do like to leave us on a note that we can infuse into our day and maybe use as that motivation. So, for yourself, what has been the best piece of advice that you've received along the way? Maybe in those moments where you felt like, it's tough to keep going. What's the best advice that just allowed you to continue leaping up and up?
So I'm gonna say one that I don't know if it's like inspiring. So I would.
Well, you nailed it in the conversation, so don't worry.
So it said, like, I'll ask for forgiveness, right? Like, not for permission, but for forgiveness. But one thing I just remember, like, really early on, like, so remember when I mentioned that I moved from one swim team to like the biggest swim team, right? And I remember just like working with the best coach in my hometown. And it was hard to keep up with those like top swimmers. And at one point we were doing like sets, and it was becoming really, really tough. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I feel that I'm gonna throw up. Like, I just cannot keep. I'm like, I can't, right? And he's like, fine, get out of the water, go puke, and get back in the water. I mean, like, just like nothing, right? Like, and I'm like, okay, well, we'll do, right? Like, and but for me, that just kind of like stuck to me. That is just like, at times it's just like, it is tough. You feel that that your body physically and mentally at that point, like, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to do one more 100, but it was like, yes, you can. And if you're feeling that you're going to, like, something is going to come out of it, go do it and then get back in the water. There is no excuses. There is no go home or feel better. It's just going to get easier. No, I mean, like, tough it up. And that's life, right? Like, just keep on going. It stuck with me, and and I'll do it many times.
Well, and I was going to say that is inspiring because I guarantee you, after you got through those ones and had toughed it out, what was once hard was probably easy one day. Am I right?
Yeah. I mean, like, there's some that, when you have some sets of 100s and you just don't have a lot of rest, and then you're like keeping up with everybody. Believe me, it is
I
not.
like she's like, no, no, no. Well,
But it is. It's just, but there's many things that have come easier after that hump has been moved over. Yeah.
well, Maria, you are so inspiring. And honestly, I've just enjoyed every time we've crossed paths because you just have this light about you. I think it's that harness determination emanates out of you. And I think that it's wonderful that you not only use your voice for the industry, but have stayed really pure and passionate to what means something to you. And that is community. And so the fact that despite the go, go, go nature of what you do, you're still willing to give back in such a great way. And I know you probably feel the feedback from your community and get so much love in return from that. So thank you, because for one of the busiest schedules I know you carved out time and space today, and I really appreciate you sharing.
Thank you, Krissy. I appreciate you too.
You've just listened to the All Things Fitness and Wellness podcast, hosted by Krissy Vann. This episode was brought to you by Fitness World, your fitness, your way. Be sure to hit like and subscribe. We have new podcast episodes weekly featuring industry insiders and influencers. Together, we're on a mission for everyone to live a life fit and well.